Joining us right now, the guy with the $1 million smile, no stranger to the show, Lloyd Barker, former Montreal Impact player. Lloyd, welcome again, my friend.
Thanks, Anthony. How are you?
I couldn't be better. Getting excited, getting pumped for this big matchup. I think it's outstanding, Lloyd, that both squads are going up against each other again so closely after that loss by TFC. I don't know about the city of Montreal, but I know here in Toronto, a lot of people are excited. What's the vibe there in Montreal?
People are excited. I think first and foremost to make the playoffs. I mean, I don't think anyone would have assured themselves after the start the team had and during that period of when they changed the manager that this was a certainty by any means. But they've come around. They've, as I like to say, they've caught fire at the right time. This is what actually teams like Los Angeles actually does perennially year after year. They start off a bit slow and they pick up throughout the mid-season, and then by the end they're playing their best football. And that's what's happening right now. Look, 12 teams make the playoffs, so it's an objective, but it's not the main objective, of course. The main objective is to win the whole thing. The 12 teams make the playoffs, so you're to be commended for that. But we do know that there's a bigger picture at hand, and you can't win that bigger prize unless you make the playoffs. So it's first and foremost getting in the playoffs was the number one objective for them, and here we are.
Absolutely. You get to the dance and anything can happen. We had Dilly Duca on at 6, and when he was inserted in that second half, things changed for the Montreal Impact for the better. We saw what he did, and I mentioned it to Dilly. To me, I believe 100% that Biello told him, get in the grill house, agitate Jackson, because one more foul, he's gone. I think this is going to be a massive key for the game Thursday night. If Jackson starts, I would go at him continuously if I'm the Impact.
I actually, at halftime, I thought he was going to be coming off Jackson because he was just one foul away from getting sent off. And you're right. I mean, you had Venegas. He was a little bit ineffective in the first half for Montreal. I mean, he did some work defensively. I'll give him that. But on the offensive side of the ball, he needs to do a little bit more. He looked a little bit hesitant in taking players on. I think he was a bit intimidated maybe by Jackson's quickness and his aggression. And so I thought that affected his play in the offensive third. In saying that, Dilly Duca is very capable. We know he's got a burst of speed. He can get past players. He's very clever on the ball. And he could, he could do some damage that way. I still think he needs to chip in one or two more goals and to be, a little bit more complete winger. But for me, he's far more capable, I think, at this stage now of understanding the league, the opponents than Johan Venegas. In saying that, Jackson, it's the way he plays. He plays on the edge. He goes at things. He doesn't shy out of a tackle. He gets in there. It's 50-50 balls, and he wants every single one of those. But it's a risky strategy. And in the playoffs, hopefully, because I thought the game wasn't too badly. I thought maybe the referee could have given Toronto a couple more calls in that game. But I think hopefully I'd like for them to let the players play. And not be a little bit too soft, shall we say, in calling these fouls during the playoffs. But certainly when you go up against a guy like Jackson, for sure, you just get it and run at him because, he could bring you down at any moment.
Well, I think in regards to the ref, it's going to be Baltimero Toledo, and he won't let the guys have a nice rhythm or flow. He'll call everything. That's what we know about Toledo. Let's get back to that first half, Lloyd. To me, if Altidore and Jovinko are on target as they were in that first half and connected as they were, watch out. It could be maybe 2 or 3 in that first half if Montreal isn't awake like they weren't. And to me, the key to Montreal in defending those two is having a key man right in the grill house of Jovinko, is someone, being aggressive on Altidore, and I think things will work out in their favor. If not, I think Toronto's going to really put Montreal out early.
I'd like to think Biello and Enzo Caccina, they will have gone to the drawing board after that game, and they would thrown away the games even prior to last Saturday's game against Toronto, and they would probably been reassured of the fact that really all you have to do is stop the big three, and the big three is Michael Bradley, the big three is Altidore, and of course the man himself, I think the Major League Soccer MVP, is Jovinko. But with Jovinko, you're not going to stop him. He's lethal. You cannot stop him. Maybe 3 or 4 players can contain him, but one-on-one you can't stop him. Where on the other hand, you could stop Michael Bradley because they did that. They denied him service a little bit more in the second half than they did in the first half. and he couldn't really pull the strings he would have wanted to. He tried to do that by dropping deeper and get on the ball, but they did a good job on that and limiting his reach and what he could do in the game as far as tempo and that. And I think Josie Altidore, I think he could be marked. I really do. I think he could be marked out of a game. I think that goal that he scored was a mistake on Siman's part, who was, again, a little bit like Jackson. These guys, they play on the edge. They go for things. They push towards the ball. They try to take the initiative. And that ball that came in, I thought Siman approached it a little bit too aggressively, and I thought Josie Altidore got a sitter there. So, when you look at that, I just think, and really, Altidore had a couple more sniffs around goal. You'd expect him to get that. But it's just, for me, I think if you're Montreal, you're happy about your chances looking at this game going forward, because I think you stop those three guys and you pretty much contain them, and it's possible to do, albeit Giovinco is a little bit more of a lethal, legitimate threat throughout the 90 minutes.
The second half, to me, was a second half not to be forgotten for many, many years. Didier Drogba with a show. Didier Drogba, to me, is a treat to watch. My son and I, with our jaws on the ground, had to pull them back up. It's unbelievable. And the first thing I said to my son after he scored that wonderful goal is I said, can you imagine if this guy came at the same age like Giovinco? He'd easily get 30, Lloyd.
Well, we've spoken about this a couple times, you and I, and I said all along, he's a guy with pride, and he plays the game the right way for the most part. I will say for the most part, because the diving antics every now and again, he could put that out of his game. But other than that, Didier Drogba, he's a beast. He's been called out 1,000 times by every single player. He's physically still dominant, 37 years old. I said it before. I told people here, don't look at his age. It's irrelevant. It's look at his attitude. And his attitude, even the year before he came here, was still the right attitude of a player you want in your team. He has won things at the highest level, both individually and collectively in the group. And so this is the guy that you would have wanted. And what you're getting from him is exactly what they expected. And I don't think there's anything that should surprise anyone here. He's a pleasure to watch. He's a treat to watch because he loves the game. He loves to win. You can see how much he's leading the group. He's taking him on his shoulders, and he's showing him the way forward. Giovinco has done the same thing to Toronto, but to be fair as well. But specifically about Drogba, it's a dream signing for Montreal, and I guess in around Major League Soccer as well, because people are kind of watching from afar what's going on in Montreal, all because of this one man.
And I agree with some of the other comments he made a couple days ago in regards to the league. I couldn't echo everything he said, and I agree with it 100%. Lloyd, a couple other things. To me, I give the advantage in the midfield to TFC. Bradley Chairou over Donatel and Nigel Reo-Coker. But to me, Nigel Reo-Coker and Donatel really played a strong game on Sunday. And I said this to a couple other guys before you came on. I think, to me, if Donatel and Nigel Reo-Coker play the way they did, Montreal walks away and wins this match hands down, because I got to tell you, I'm not impressed with Donatel. I don't think he's in shape still. Nigel Reo-Coker, God bless him, he leaves it all out there. I think there's times that he has mental lapses as well. So to me, that's where TFC really has to expose Montreal.
And I think you're right. For my money, Marco Donatel actually played his best game in an Impact shirt last Saturday. And if not, it's certainly one of his top performances. There are weaknesses in there for sure, and it has to do with mobility. But Marco Donatel has gotten intelligent. He's got a little bit smarter now. He's figured it out. He's starting a bit deeper now when he's defending, his starting point defensively. So now the play is always in front of him. Reo-Coker's kind of the one that does a little bit more roaming around, and certainly they look for him to chip in as much as he can offensively. He gets a little bit higher up the pitch. But yeah, I do agree that I think the mobility, I think certainly the ground that they cover in that midfield, I think the legs. They've got miles on their legs. Let's be honest. Excuse the train in the background there, buddy. They've got miles on the legs. So yeah, you get the young boys in midfield for Toronto FC, the Michael Bradleys, who could drive at them hard. You can expose them for sure. And I think Michael Bradley will be a key if Toronto's going to win this thing. I know about Giovinco, and I know the threat of Altidore. But if Toronto is going to beat Montreal, I think Bradley has to get up top and chip in on some kind of the offense, some part of the offense. And by that, I mean being that late runner that we know he could do and contribute in the box, being the third runner. I think he's got to get up there and expose those boys out of midfield for Toronto, for Montreal. and he will be that kind of X factor for Toronto.
Lloyd, I agree, but I disagree. I think the two guys that TFC has to insert if they want to win this game Thursday night is put Kentari on the bench, don't let him move, and insert Eric Zavaleta. That's one. And somehow, some way, you need to get Colin Warner into the game to play physical against Drogba, like Chiman plays against Jovinko, and then you have a shot. Which insertions would you put into the Impact to offset the insertions of TFC?
Well, I got to tell you this. They don't have many options, Montreal, in terms of mobility in center of midfield. Caleb Malice was the man that Frank Lopez was relying on as that player with the high volume, gets up and down and covers a lot of ground. He was that player for them. But he's got a lot. He's got weaknesses as well in terms of being on the ball. Sometimes he's a little bit simple. He doesn't really take initiative and get forward as much as one would like out of deep areas in midfield. So they don't have many options. Patrice Bernier, we know what he brings. He's very much like a Rio Cochran and very much like a Marco Donadel. Just kind of fits in and floats as well and dictates the pace of the game. So they don't have those athletic players per se in the center of midfield. And so there's really nothing to combat. So, and that's why they just stick with that central two pairing, whoever they are in front of the back four, and they just go kind of about their business and rely on the front three. And I say front three because there's really just one winger joins the attack on any given moment with the striker and Piatti underneath. And they just rely on those guys, three of the four. And if it's a great attack, then all four up top do the business. And that's it for me. But if you're talking about trying to combat Colin Warner with Didier Drogba or vice versa, I mean, you're not going to win many battles if you're trying to physically outduel Didier Drogba. Your best bet is to fight him off and get him to lay the ball off and track his runs. Because if you're trying to fight him physically, you're going to lose that battle every single time. And I don't know if Colin Warner or anyone, Kantari or anyone for that matter, that can really pose a legitimate physical threat to contain him. We've seen it. We've seen players try that, and it just doesn't work. He's just too much of a physical presence.
Lloyd, always great having you on. I'm excited. I'm anxious to get this game started Thursday night. It should be an electric atmosphere in Montreal and Saputo Stadium. We really appreciate you taking time to join us, and we'll talk to you whether Montreal moves on or not, to dissect the season or to talk about Montreal possibly getting to the MLS Cup final. Lloyd, thank you so much again for making time out of your busy schedule, my friend.
It's a pleasure, brother. And for the record, Montreal is my team, obviously the history that I've got here, but if Montreal can't be there, I want Toronto FC or Vancouver to be there. Put that on record.
Absolutely, and it is great.
Canadian teams, for
sure. Absolutely, Lloyd. It's fantastic that 3 Canadian teams are in. It's great for the country. It's great to see Montreal and Toronto playing. I don't care, honestly, who wins out of the two. It's a Canadian team moving ahead. So to me, I'm happy. Lloyd, God bless, and thank you so much again, my friend.
Take care, buddy. Anytime.
Lloyd Barker, former Montreal Impact player, and he talked about it. I mean, if Montreal doesn't win, he's happy to see TFC move ahead. Look, I'd love to see TFC win. That would be my first choice, obviously. But if they don't, another Canadian team is moving ahead. I'm happy because Vancouver's in still. Montreal will be ahead, or Toronto. And this is important for the country, important for Canadian players, important for MLS. I'm absolutely excited to get this match going Thursday.